Welcome to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I'm your host, Darrell Scott, and together we will dive into the lives and careers of the jazz legends who have left a rhythmic imprint on the world. Be prepared to reminisce on the highs and the lows of their musical journey and the trials that sculpted their timeless musical gems. We'll preserve the legacy of these extraordinary maestros and find inspiration in the melodies of their lives. Subscribe now and never miss a beat. Now, let's get to the show. Hey everybody, how you doing? Greetings. This is Darrell Scott. This is the Jazz Flyte Podcast. This is now a family show. I say that because we had Nathan and Noah East. We had Pamela Williams and her daughter Day. We had Pat Hawley and Cat Hawley and Adam. So every now and then we just want to bring the family on, get the family feel. So we had Lemek on, and whether or not you folks know it or not, his dad, who's on the other screen. I can't point because I'm not sure which side he really is on when you see this. Quintin Gerard W. I'm not going to get into why. I'm just going to call you Q if that's okay. And this is not a Bond movie, but I'm just going to call you Q. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, man. How are you? I'm doing fabulous. Appreciate you.
I'm fine. Here's the thing that gets me, and we'll get into the family thing a little later. How long you been playing the sax? And do you play anything else?
To answer that first question, yeah, I've been playing since I was 8 years old. I picked up the saxophone, and something I always wanted to do, of course. And I do play other things. I play keyboards, for songwriting and things like that. I play flute, drums. So got a little mixture going on there.
So when you are creating a song, you're one man. I'm old school from the standpoint that I still remember when there was a gathering in the studio and the drummer was here and someone was over here, so you could see the emotion of the other musicians.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's just you and you're creating the song, what's the thing you start with? What generates the song? I mean, you have it in your head, but what are you rehearsing or perfecting it on when you first start?
Well, that's a good question. And it's a somewhat, loaded question, compound. When you're writing a song, or I should say in music in general, in my case, if I'm on the saxophone, for example, if I'm practicing something, or if I'm just working out some melodies or something like that, I'll play a melody on the saxophone, and then I'll be like, that sounds like a song. That sounds like a melody, right? That I can develop into a song. I'll do it like that on the saxophone, but there's other cases where I might start with a drum groove or a rhythm thing. You know what I'm saying? So the rhythm aspect of it will spark an idea. But I will say, in my case, primarily, more than 65-70% of the time, I'll start with a chord progression. And from, excuse me, and from that chord progression, I'll hear a melody within that, and then I'll just start harmonizing that chord progression into a song. Because that's pretty much how I do it. So there's no real one way to do it, but those are three ways that I use to, write songs.
Using that process, how long does it take you to create one song? Rough number.
Oh boy. I've done them. I've written songs when they actually come to you couple hours,
Wow.
And then some songs will take a week. Just depends on what it is.
Me being a fly on the wall, I always want to sit or be up in the corner watching you guys as you create a song, just to see all the trials and tribulations that you go through.
Yep.
Because I'm sure there are times when it's like, okay, that sucks. I don't want to do this. Let me start over again. Or this is really a groove. and
Yeah.
it's supposed to be one of my favorite songs of all time. I don't know if you remember when War came out, they did "The World Is a Ghetto," the album.
Why can't
Yeah,
we be friends? And
yes, but there's a an album they have called the Music Band 2, where
mhm,
they do an instrumental version of "The World Is a Ghetto,"
okay,
totally different than that dark, moody song that you had on "The World Is a Ghetto," and it's
right.
13 minutes long. How
Yep.
do you know? I want to make this song 3 minutes. I want to make this song 5 minutes. I want to make this song 13 minutes. Do you get in a groove, or do you just go, okay, I'm just done with this. This is the best we got?
Mhm. Well, in some cases, it's funny you mention this because I had this conversation with a friend of mine. Um, Over the years, you know, I went through this period of, I'll come up with an idea and I'll answer that question, but this is kind of like getting to that. And I just want
Hmm.
to show you how I come from there. I went through over the years this period of time where I would write or hear something, write it down. You'd pull up what we call a sequence in these days. Back in the days, you had to literally handwrite stuff down, get a piano and then handwrite it. So I've been through all that too, but technology allows us to, just like get at a keyboard, run a sequencer, and it records it for you so you don't forget it. Um, but I went through this phase of like doing stuff and then listening back to it and be like, just like you said, oh, that sucks. That makes no sense. What was I thinking? What was I hearing? But recently, I've transitioned to this new place where I understand and recognize that every idea, concept, or melody has value. And I will never, ever destroy it or just toss it and say, oh, it sucks.
Hmm.
Because I've gotten to this place where I realized that I don't know what I was hearing at that particular time and space, but it may not work right now at this moment, but I'll come back and revisit it later. You understand what
Hmm.
I'm saying?
Hmm.
And then I'll be in a different place and I can listen back to it and say, I don't know what I was thinking then, but let me work that song. And I've done that before. And I've fought my way and just, worked through a song. I don't care how bad it was or I thought it was. And then at the end of the production, I was like, man, what if I would have thrown that away? Or what if I
Hmm.
would have just deleted that? Look how great this came out. Now, it may not always work for commercially released single on a smooth jazz album or whatever, but it could have commercial value, like for a jingle or for a commercial or for video game or whatever. So there's always life to a melody or life to a chord progression, even though it may sound corny or goofy at the time you do it, or even when you come back to it and listen to it, like, what in the world was that? No, I now am at this place where no matter what it is, I will always take it through its fruition from the beginning to end. And when the production on whatever that was is complete, then I will evaluate at that point whether it was good or bad. So in the case of War, they already had a blueprint of what that song sounds like. So
Right.
at that point, they can just say, hey, let's just do this with it and let's have fun with it, excuse me, and elaborate on it. And I'm going to presume that that's what happened in that case.
Yeah, it is. But to me, it's one of the best songs I've ever heard.
Yep.
I can't tell you anything different.
I hope I got that point
Oh
across.
yeah, I'm always I take this from the standpoint of being the fan.
Yeah,
One of my favorite stories is I had a bad day at work. I'm going to a concert. It's David Sanborn,
right.
and I had I don't know second, third row seats. I don't want to sit in the second or third row. I go sit in the very back of the stage. When I
Mhm.
lean back, I'm on the back wall of the hall.
Okay,
Close my eyes, and all I want to do is listen. There's so many times, I, as I tell people, I don't go to a concert to see you. I
right.
go to a concert to hear you.
I hear you. Right, right,
And
right.
as time goes on, you hear little idiosyncrasies. You don't get me wrong. Every now and then I hear a bad note. But it's just I just want to enjoy your playing, and that's all it is. We're gonna have a conversation later. And we can laugh and joke and talk about your styles and all that sort of stuff. But sometimes it's like being at home, and I can't begin to tell you what this office looks like, but there's R&B and pop CDs there. There's I don't know, 5,000 albums in front of me.
Mhm.
There's another, this wall is full of the jazz stuff that I have. And
Right.
I know that what I do is horrible because I think of a song, like I will play that war song today.
Mhm.
But what that will lead to is a totally different story. Because
Mhm.
it's and while I'm listening to that, I think of something else, and I go and I play this, and I go over and do this, and it's just one of those things. Then I no longer have carpet because the whole floor is covered in CD covers, album covers, and all that sort of stuff. And then it's like, crap, now I got to put
Cases.
all this stuff up, yep, in cases. I'm like, okay, fine. That's what got me in trouble.
Mhm.
Sometimes when I do this, because I can spend a whole day. Because don't get me wrong, we talked about it. I'm old, so I got stuff that is probably 25, 30 years old.
Wow.
And if I don't remember it, and then I think of it, I gotta play it just
Hmm.
to kind of refresh myself. But I think you musicians are geniuses.
Man,
And
thank you.
and the reason I say that is because number one, I always do this. I bet you have some kind of filing system where songs that you have not finished, excuse me, are stored. You know
Yeah.
you can go back in and finish it or make this addition or whatever.
Yeah.
And I always want to go, so how many of those are in that drawer? But then I talk to somebody who goes, oh, Darrell, I don't know, I got 8 drawer file cabinet and it's all songs I've never not done.
Mm.
Well, why not? Well, because you think of this Barnes, this rhythm track, it does this. You want to add horns, you want to add strings.
Mm.
And it's just, okay, I can't, my brain hurts. As I look around the room and I have some really odd stuff. I don't know, your jock jams. Marvin Gaye does a version of the national anthem, which is just, dude, which is, uh, it's Marvin Gaye doing the national anthem, and you can see as he starts, the audience is not necessarily vibing with it,
Right.
and then as he goes on,
Yeah.
the players are getting into it.
Yeah.
You can all of a sudden you hear clapping toward the end,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, every now and then if you need inspiration, you have different songs that you can play. I have a when I go to the gym, I have an iPod and it's workout music. And there's sometimes it goes, can I just stay on the elliptical at this speed for 4 minutes? That's all it takes. Um, but it helps me get through
Good
it.
workout.
Yeah, sometimes I they have to peel me off, but other times I just melt and I love it. You have a nickname that is rather interesting. I don't know if it's your nickname, but it's this funky sax player. Where did
Yeah.
that come from?
The Fnkysax Player. Ah, appreciate you asking that question. That's a moniker that I carry, and I carried a while since I was in college. One day I was we I went to Loyola University, among other schools that I had scholarships to, Berkeley up in Boston and University of Southern California, SC, and I chose to go to Loyola because Ellis Marsalis was teaching there, and he's right from here in my backyard. So,
Hmm.
and Ellis was a person that's very highly respected here in the New Orleans community and in my world of music as well. So I chose to stay there, home, and go to Loyola to study with him. And he was my improvisation teacher. And so one day, and I was in the really early in the morning because I had like a 7 o'clock class, I think. And I was in the break room in just kind of going over my notes, going preparing to go to class. And Ellis walked in, and he was going to the vending machines. And I'm going into detail with the story. I don't go in this much detail when I've been asked that before. But he was going to the vending machine, and he looks at me and goes, "Okay, hey Wilson, what are you going to do with the saxophone that my oldest son hasn't already done?" And I looked at him and I was like, really? Mr. Marsalis, it's too early for this, man. You I haven't even woke up yet and you hit me like this, right?
Hmm.
So we got into a conversation about it, and of course his oldest son is Branford Marsalis, who's a
Right.
legend. It's just straight up. And so as a 19-year-old kid, you're kind of like, oh God, that was the most aggravating thing in the world. But at that time, but later on, as time progressed, that conversation stuck with me and it
Hmm.
kind of did something to me. And I said to myself, Ellis has a point there. It's like, yeah, he's right. What am I going to do different than anything that has already been done with the saxophone? Um, and that sent me on my journey of thinking about reflecting inward as opposed to projecting outward as a horn player or just as a person, an individual,
Hmm.
and I, it forced me to go back into my life and start evaluating how did I get into this whole music thing, and why am I here? And I got to a point where I realized, like, did I actually choose music or did music choose me?
Right.
I had to answer that question. So I rewound and I said, okay, where did this all start? You know what I'm saying? So to make a long story short, it basically took me back to the first time I even heard music or listened to music. Was I heard Mr. Magic, of course. I heard um, a lot of Grover Washington, and then I heard a group called Spyro Gyra,
Hmm.
the saxophone player Jay Beckenstein. And that was kind of the beginning of my introduction to saxophone. But then I looked at my record collection, and my record collection did not reflect any jazz at all, with the
Right.
exception of Grover and Spyro Gyra. I didn't get into, John Coltrane and Bird and all these people,
Hmm.
Sonny Stitt and, on and on. And I could go all on and on with that.
Right.
But when I got to college, I didn't even know who these guys were. My biggest thing was I wanted to be in Casey and the Sunshine's band horn section with an afro and some bell bottoms, playing in the horn section. That was it for me. That was my aspirations as what the epitome, the apex
Right.
of playing a saxophone player was getting a horn section. Well, a funny thing happened was the 70s turned into the 80s, and there
Right.
went,
Yep.
those bands,
Hmm.
and all those jobs dried up quick, right? So I looked at my record collection, and my record collection was all funk music. It was Brick, Slade, Sun, Ohio Players, Parliament, I mean, on and on, R&B stuff. I can go into, so then I started gravitating to like Ronnie Laws, who's
Hmm.
like a major staple of my vocabulary, my style, and that thing. So what I did was I said, well, I've been listening to a lot of funk music, but I play the saxophone. So I said, well, that's who I am. I'm a hybrid of funk and jazz. And sax. So I just merged the two together, called it Fnkysax. And
Hmm.
that's because that's my style of playing and that's how I hear it. That's why a lot of people tell me all the time, is like, man, you don't sound like a traditional jazz
Right.
player, nor do
Hmm.
you sound like what we have now come accustomed to saxophone players in contemporary smooth jazz.
Right.
My style isn't quite the same as a lot of the players that are there. And it's because of that. It's because of, my dialect, my musical dialect started from roots of gospel, listening to gospel music and funk music. Saying my mom was a gospel singer in church, so she would walk around the house humming all the time. So I would
Hmm.
hear gospel melodies and phrases, growing up from age 5 all the way through 12. You know what I'm saying? So that's where Fnkysax came from. I just took I did a deep dive and, you know, understood my roots as a musician or musically was based in funk music and then R&B, funk, gospel. And then I played the sax. So I just
Hmm.
said, well, I must be the funky sax player.
All right, let's listen to a sample of what we're talking about here. Let's listen to Streets of Gold from Quintin Gerard W on the
Yes,
Jazz
sir.
Flyte Podcast. Welcome back to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. That was Streets of Gold by our guest today, Quintin Gerard W. I just call him Q.
Yep.
I think that's the relationship we can start with and kind of go from there.
Hmm.
Um, what did you learn Now, I'm gonna back up a bit. Your son is also a musician and a very good
Oh,
one.
yeah.
He's actually been on the show, Lemek.
Yeah.
As you are raising him, at what point does he say, "Dad, I want to be a musician"? Did you let him choose the guitar, or did you go, "Look, you're gonna do this, because I'm your dad, and you're gonna follow in my shoes"? What'd you do?
Yeah, no, I never put the foot down, so to speak. First of all, his mother's a mathematician, biomathematician, right? So I was the musician. So
Hmm.
he had three choices. He could go, he could be a, he could get into statistics and math. He could be a musician. That's the second choice. Or the third choice was pick something totally different that neither one of us did.
Right, right.
To be honest with you, and I don't know if Lemek knows this, but to be honest with you, when this boy was like 9 years old, probably 9 to 13, I actually thought he was going to be a comedian.
Oh, really?
Yes, a stand-up comedian. I mean, this is how he was, like always running around cracking jokes, and doing these funny things. I was like, and I just would give him that cross-eyed look like, I'm keeping an eye on you, bro. You know, I don't know what's going on here, but you're looking like you're going to be a funny man or something like that.
Hmm.
So that's a dad thing, and but I never even questioned anything. I know that he did like music, and I had friends in his circle, and he was exposed to music since day one. And but I never pushed it on him. And then one day, a friend of mine brought a guitar over, acoustic guitar. Actually, I bought him a drum set when he was, I think he was like 2 years old for his birthday,
Mm.
and his legs were like this short. So he could, so I bought a stool that was really low to the floor, so his
Right.
little feet could get to the kick pedal. And this boy was playing the drums within like a month. He was actually, he's like, come in here. And I would go in there, he would be holding the beat down. So I was like, all right, okay. It was electronic drum kit though, because I wasn't going
Mhm.
to deal with all the banging cymbals and all that. But,
Right.
just something to get him going, just to introduce him to music. Fast forward, I moved back to Louisiana. And of course, I had to take care of my dad, his grandpa. And so I needed space. And so I packed up the drum kit, put it in the attic. And as he says, there goes his music career or
Right.
his drum playing career. Albeit that was not the whole purpose of it, because I did set up a studio and I was going to get him introduced to recording, and playing piano and things like that. Uh, and so as fate would have it, a friend of mine came by with an acoustic guitar and gave it to him. And that was the beginning of his guitar life. And that was around, I guess, around age 4 or 5 or something like that. And then from there, he just kind of started noodling around with it, but he was playing it. He just figured it out on his own.
Hmm.
And, man, the rest is history. I never talked to him about music after that or during that period. It was always about making sure he was, educated in all his, English, math, and all that
Hmm.
stuff. Because I homeschooled him the whole time. So,
Hmm.
the whole time. So we focused more on that stuff. The music, he just took on his own. And then, of course, he's one of those YouTube era kids. So he found artists um, that he liked. But I know that he did fall in love with Stanley Jordan, who I'm
Hmm.
proud to say he just finally met and
Oh,
had a great uh, experience connection with Stanley. And Stanley signed his guitar, and that's like his guitar idol. So it's come full circle.
hmm.
He first fell in love with Stanley Jordan, and just a month ago we got to see Stanley at the
Hmm.
Jazz Marketplace, and those two hit it off pretty good, and they're connected now. So that's
Nice.
kind of like me with Kenny Garrett. Kenny Garrett's like my saxophone, guru,
Hmm.
and when you listen to guys on records, and you haven't met them yet, you have this image in your
Right.
mind of what the
Yes.
people are like, and then when you actually meet them and connect with them, and I met Kenny on a street corner. I met Kenny on a street corner in LA at Catalina, and we've been friends now for 30 years. I
Wow.
had no idea that interaction and that meeting that night would begin or spawn a 30-year relationship with him. And he's not Kenny Garrett to me. He's like a big brother to me. And
Right.
he's the guy that kind of kept my head straight in this business of music too, because it is the music business. He's been there through the loss of both my parents, so he was there for me as that big brother figure in the music business, and has always checked in on me, and I check in on him, and it's been 30 years. So hopefully Lemek can have that kind of relationship with Stanley too.
It's funny. I think we don't think that you musicians can have relationships like that. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's one of those things. I don't want to say we put you on a pedestal, but I'm going to say we put you on a pedestal. But for you all to interact with each other on that level, to say like if he was coming to town, he'd call you and go, let's sit down and have lunch or do
Yeah,
something like that. And it's supposed to be an hour, and 8 hours later, you two guys are still sitting at the table. Plates are clean, the place is trying to close, but you two are still talking.
yeah,
I think that's a part of the jazz music that we don't hear or see. I mean, it's always interesting. I've always said we have a place here in Ohio, in Cleveland, called
mhm.
Blossom Music Center. It's kind of like the Hollywood Bowl.
Okay.
Here's my dream. I dream really weird stuff. I want to sit out in the audience amongst the seats
Yeah.
and put 50 or 100 of you on stage, not to play, but to tell stories, to tell
Just to talk.
relatable stories, just to talk and listen to these things. Because in doing all these interviews, I've come to, every now and then a couple of people will call it, Joe, how you doing? How's the show doing? What you want? What do you need anything? And to me, that's special. But I see it because of what I do. I'm not sure everybody else who's just a fan sees that we're all enamored to be, to go backstage and talk to you and all that sort of stuff. But sometimes to have that, there's
That Q&A session, that Q&A session.
there's a young lady, I think she's out of Colorado. Her last name is Liao. She's a bass player.
Mhm.
She says, Darrell, I got a couple of songs here. Can you listen to them and just tell me what you think?
Yeah.
What?
Mhm.
Sure, I will. Um, it's kind of that early entrance into to whatever they're doing. So those are interesting things, or just the different conversations you have when you don't talk about um, when you don't talk about music. You
Mhm.
talk about life and how things are going on and everything like that, or they give you suggestions.
Man,
Um,
that was one of the cool things about when I was on the Dave Koz cruise this past summer. Um, Dave, the way he does that, Eric Darius uh, was the spokesperson, I guess, for the saxophone master class, it was called.
hmm
And so all of the saxophone players that were on the cruise, we actually got on stage and there was chairs lined up and we all had a chair and the audience came in and it was actually literally just what you're saying.
hmm
It was called a saxophone masterclass Q&A session where all we did was sit there and answer questions from the audience, and the
hmm
audience could ask any question they wanted, just to get to know the artist, and then we all gave our background history and where we came from, how we got to where we are. And even for me, sitting there with Richard Elliott, Dave Koz, Marcus Anderson, Leo P, Jasmine Gent, on and on, those folks, and Mindy Abear, every hearing their stories,
hmm
man, it was so cool because we all came from kind of the same place.
Right, right,
And I don't mean geographically,
right,
musically is what I'm saying. It's
right.
like we all went through similar experiences, and to hear everybody share their stories and say, well, I remember that too. I remember going through that too. And I remember band class too. And I remember, I sucked at one point too.
Right. It's always
It
interesting.
was awesome.
One of the things I always try to find out is number one, we'll call them side hustles.
Mhm.
Sometimes you don't just play music, you do other things, you come from
Yeah.
other things. I don't
You
know
have
if
to
you know,
survive, man, in this
right.
game.
I don't know if you know Althea Renee.
Absolutely.
Talk to her and I go, so what's your background? She goes, I was a former Detroit deputy sheriff. What?
Mhm.
What? Do I have to come to a show wearing a bulletproof vest? She laughed. She goes, no, Daryl, you don't have to do that. But
Right.
it's things like that, or to find out that so and so teaches at Michigan State or Michigan, or there's another guy, I can't think of his name now, that teaches in Utah. Those are the interesting things. Right now, I realize we could talk forever, but let's get to this. Let's listen to Tell Me Something, new
Okay.
single from
Yeah.
Quintin Gerard W on the Jazz Flyte Podcast. Let's Tell Me Something from our guest today, Q.
Hey.
That's all I'm gonna call him. There's an unusual thing that you do that you're involved with, which I find phenomenal yet impressive. And that's the thing where your music is being used with medical studies.
Right.
How did that get off the ground, or how did A get together with B?
Um, Good question. Well, for those people that might not know, I had an older brother who I was very close to in my early years, and he suffered. Oh, sorry, but it's my phone. My older brother had epilepsy,
Hmm.
and so I grew up in a family where we had a person that suffered from that. It's a neurological disorder. And even as early as 7 years old, I was taught how to manage a situation with a person that has epilepsy and catches seizures. Okay. And so, growing up at 7 years old, when you're dealing with that kind of stuff, it 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 shows you how serious life is already
Hmm.
at 7 years old. You realize that there's stuff going on in this world that's bigger than playing with toys or playing with your friends or playing basketball,
Right.
baseballs.
Hmm.
I dealt with real life issues. Um, and so from there, I had that experience with my brother. And even in my adult life, I'd run across people that had not disclosed that they had the neurological disorder called epilepsy. And I would be in a situation in a workplace where a person had a seizure and everybody was just freaking out and
Right.
running away, but I was actually running to that person
Hmm.
to assist that person because the management staff had no clue what was happening. They
Right.
had no idea how to deal with that. But I had already had almost 20 years of experience with dealing with patients that catch seizures. And so I ran in and I knew exactly what to do for that young lady. Um, and that was, I guess you would say, that's my background. Now, from there, I put that on my website to let everybody know that I was contacted by Dr. Ettinger in New York, who said that one of my songs, which is Days We Remember, um, he would play for his. My apologies for that, man.
That's
That's
fine.
doggone text messages. He would play Days Remember for his patients, and he noticed that there would be a direct connection with the limbic system, which causes those epileptic seizures, and it would reduce them. So from there, we just built a relationship, and as I could be like a spokesperson for that particular disorder. And it's funny you would mention that because this year I was planning to reach out and start a foundation for patients and for the epilepsy foundation
Hmm.
because I have such a kind of close connection to
Right.
that.
Right. I get it. I have my mom passed away from Alzheimer's, so I'm
Okay.
very active in the
Right.
Alzheimer's community and so forth and so on. But it's good to see it once again. It's one of those things that we don't see. We hear your CDs, your albums, your
Right.
MP3s, whatever you want to call them, and we don't know these are other side hustles that you do that are very important to you. That
Right.
that the rest of the listening audience needs to be aware of. It's it's a deeper conversation
Yeah.
than what people think of. So other than doing the stuff with the medical stuff, what do you got going on? What you got new music coming up? You're working with somebody? What's going on?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my last single, which is Streets of Gold, Uh, did very well at radio. I peaked at number 5 on the
Nice.
Billboard. So that was my fourth top 5 single in a row, which is very exciting. I'm thank God for that, and I'm blessed to have that success with my singles and the way radio and people have welcome me because I've been in this thing a long time, man. But just since Lemek came back on, I really kind of got going because I had nothing else to do.
Hmm.
Grandpa is going on to the, motherland. So I was like, well, what am I going to do now? So I
Right.
got back into the music game and here I am. But I'm working on my new single right now, which I'm happy to announce. I just got it 2 weeks ago, and I'm co-writing that song with James Lloyd from Pieces of a
Pieces of
Dream.
a dream. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so me and James got together, we talked, and I told him, it's funny because me and James will get on the phone and it will go for like 2 hours. We talk, I'm like, bro, we got to get off the phone, James. It's been three
Right.
hours. I got to go do. He's like, I gotta. So we kind of got that connection like that. You know what I'm saying? And you talk about two guys that just click, me and James, man, we get to going. It's when he calls and I see the phone and it's like James Lloyd,
Right.
I'm like, okay, there, shut everything down because here we go. It's gonna be 3 hours,
Right.
and so James has got great track. It's called Food for the Soul. So that's
Hmm.
the name of the new single that's coming out, and I'm recording that right now, doing my sax parts, and hopefully it'll be released in the second quarter of next year, around March or something
Okay.
like that.
Please keep us in mind. Let us know so we can add it to our social media.
All
Um,
right.
the other thing is this. Whole lot of people out there want to follow you. How can we
Oh,
follow you? What is your social media presence?
my social media presence is always going to be either my name or Fnkysax. So you can find me at on Facebook at Quintin Gerard W. Just type that in, or you could type in the Funky Sax Player, Fnkysax. There's no U in the funky because
Right.
it's
I
not
noticed
about
that.
me, not about you, Quintin.
Very nice.
So
Very
I
nice. I
close the
like that.
U out. You see, it's not
Yeah.
about me. It's about the music. So it's Fnkysax, the Funky Sax Player. And that goes for Twitter and also Instagram as well.
Okay.
So,
All right. We will add you to ours. So, like I said,
and my website, of course, you can always go to my website, quintingerardw.com. Forgot about
whatever new comes out, we will add it, and maybe at
it.
some point, um, you can come here to Cleveland and we can put on a concert and let
Absolutely.
more people know what's going on.
Absolutely. Anytime.
And how often do you and Lemek tour, play together?
All the time right now.
Yeah.
We were just up in Lexington earlier this year, a couple months ago. I did a date there, and I here's the deal. Typically, what'll happen is, we're known for somehow reason as the father and son duo now. So,
Right.
we play a lot together. So people will call us together. They will call him separate, and they will call me separate. But when they call him, he brings me as the sax player, and then when they call me, I bring him as the guitar player.
Right.
So we're always kind of together, unless it's some unique situation where there's a house band or something like that, and
Hmm.
they already have a sax player or they already have guitar players or whatever like that. But typically when we go, if they call me for a gig, then I'll bring him as my guitar player,
Hmm.
musical director, guitar player, because he knows all the music and stuff like that. So,
Right.
and then when he has a gig, he'll bring me as a saxophone player because I'm free. You don't have to pay.
Wait, say that part again.
I said, when they call him for a gig, he'll bring me as a saxophone player because he don't have to pay me. That's
We
how
gotta,
dad. That's how
that,
dad gets.
that's how Dad gets a gig.
That's the treatment dad gets.
We got to work on that. We got to work on that. I can make some calls. I have some friends on the hill. Um, we got to make some calls.
Yeah, that's how he does dad. Hey, I need a sax player, dad. Come on, we're going. I'm like, all right.
Do you
You
at
know,
least get a meal and a hotel out of it?
I get transportation, room and board, and a meal ticket. That's what dad gets.
Oh my God. Okay.
I tell you, these kids, man, these new kids, they different, man.
I know. I know. I got my daughter works for American Airlines, and it's like I get to fly for what?
Yeah,
And I get it.
You get the
I'm,
standby treatment, right?
I'm not going to comment because I'm not happy with it because you know what, if the plane is full, I got to sit here and wait.
You gotta wait. Yeah,
I don't
I
necessarily
know.
do that.
I know.
Q, this has been a pleasure, man. It's good to know you. It's good to meet you. We've had um, I've had conversations about you from other people, especially that son of yours, and
Thank.
I can't wait. We'll have to somehow. We've got some things that we're going to try and do, and I'll talk to you about those in a
All
few
right.
minutes here,
Yeah,
and,
absolutely, man.
and we'll go from there. But once again, I appreciate it, ladies and gentlemen. If you like what you've heard, I suggest once you get to the end of this, you subscribe and just stay because you never know who we're going to get. Um, Gerald Albright, Kirk Whalum, Reagan Whiteside, Kim Scott,
All
uh,
right.
Jason Tips, blah blah, a
Woo.
whole bunch of people.
Got
So,
some good folks there.
man, we're trying. We're doing the best we can because here, it's a whole nother story. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Join us again next week for the Jazz Flyte Podcast. Thank you for tuning in to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I hope you enjoy these stories and soulful melodies that grew through the doors of time. If you want to stay connected with the latest updates and episodes, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. Until next time, I'm Darrell Scott.